Thanks for checking out this podcast of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. If you enjoyed this recording, make sure to check out our past shows online at irlonestar.com or their respective video or podcast formats on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the show, either it being about sponsorships or questions for the host, contact the station manager at dick@irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776. This show is recorded in downtown Conroe, Texas at the Lone Star Community Radio Studios, and Lone Star Community Radio reserves all rights to this recording and images.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. Welcome you to what I hope is a great show today. I know we've got a lot of good content to share. We've got two wonderful guests to tell us their experiences and share some of their expertise with us. So I encourage you to hang around for the full hour. And remember, if you're unable to listen to the show for the full hour, there's a podcast post every week by Wednesday of the week. You can find it on our Facebook page, The Weekly Business Hour. You can go to our YouTube channel, The Weekly Business Hour, or you can find it on other social media sites such as iTunes, Google+, and others. So look for it. The Weekly Business Hour podcast is always available for your listening pleasure. Well, today we'll start out with my thought for the week, which is summer is over. Now what? Our special guest and business guest, entrepreneur Cody Spence, owner of All-Star Catering, will be making his second appearance on the show and updating us on what is happening to him and his business since he last joined us. Also joining us in the expert corner, I'm pleased to say that Lisa McElroy, owner of Alegre HR, will join us and talk about HR. She's been on the show before and offered some real good, solid advice, so I hope you catch that segment. I will close out the show with my Silver Fox tip of the week, telling your story, an update. So sit back, grab your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes as we talk about business right here on the Weekly Business Hour. And before we move on, I want to talk to you just for a minute about being successful in the use of a mentor. You know, I'm a mentor, so what I say might be considered self-serving. But when I was in business and when I started the new businesses I was involved in, I had a mentor. I had been taught very early in life the value of having mentors. And I want to encourage any of you who are in business for yourself and listening to the program, or even thinking, more important, thinking about starting a business, find a mentor, or maybe more than one. Whether you pay them or not, that's just based on the situation. Keep in mind, though, if you pay someone, typically they will take the time and give you advice, be there when you need them, so on and so forth. So get a mentor, improve your business, get the most out of your business and the most out of yourself. Remember the contact information. You can reach out at 832-699-2132 to me if you have a question or comment about the show. Or you can just email us right here at the station at rick@irlonestar.com. That's Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Well, let's get the show rolling. Thought for the week. Summer is over. Now what? Well, that's a question I think that most businesses should be asking them. Summertime is a little different for probably every business that I can think of because we have vacations, if nothing else. So people are gone, key people are gone, and you have to get through the time without those key people. There's a lot of other things that happen in the summer besides the heat and the thunderstorms. But the fact that that part of the year is over is important because now we're rolling into September, then in October, November, December, 4 months of the year. And I've been in a number of businesses where there was not necessarily a seasonality, but these were the last 4 months of the year. And if we had to hustle a little extra to make our numbers, then we needed to do it now. First thing you need to determine is what's working for you and what's not. In other words, take a quick inventory of things in your business that are not really working as well as they could and address them. Perhaps they only need a tweak. Things that are working well for you and your business, maybe that's something that you can even improve on further or make it more important to what's happening. And the final thing I want to talk about in this thought for the week, are your employees on the same page and ready to go for the next 4 months of the year? This is something I always encourage businesses to check on from time to time. And I think you have to stop and check on this one as well. It's just not something that your gut tells you everything's okay. Check and make sure your employees know what the mission is, what you're trying to do. Make sure they're on board. Because the worst thing you can have happen to you is have an employee, one or more, that's not in gear, who does not agree, who's not happy, however you want to phrase it. And this will just slow down and make it difficult, if not impossible, for you to get the most out of the next 4 months. Well, opportunities are right there in front of you, so grab them. Move on with your business. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to hear from some of our local business leaders on how they have found success right here in Montgomery County. And just a quick reminder again, I mentioned it earlier, but we're on Facebook. Please like us on Facebook at the Weekly Business Hour page, and I encourage you to check off on the alert that's available. So each time the show is posted to a podcast, you're alerted. You can take a quick look at the content of the show, see something you like, then you'll listen to the show. So remember, like us on Facebook, make us part of your business education. Well, we're to that part of the show, as I say every time, my favorite part of the show, and that's talking with a local business owner. This is what it's all about. It's what I did the last 40 years myself, was own businesses, build them, and in my case, ultimately sell them. Our guest today, as I mentioned, is Cody Spence, owner of All-Star Catering. Cody, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, Cody's no stranger to the station, so he just fits in here right. He appears on a number of shows and is a great friend of the station, Lone Star Community Radio, as well as a great representative of our community here in Conroe and Montgomery County. Cody, in case people have forgotten your last appearance, which has been a little over 2 years ago, give us a little background on what your business is and what y'all do.
We are All-Star Catering Company. We are a full-service catering company in the Montgomery County, Harris County, Walker County, Brazos County, and all surrounding areas. We love what we do. We are a French-based company. We specialize in sauces, and we spend a lot of time with research and development and a lot of time on training our employees and developing young leaders in the community that are our employees and clients. So.
Well, let me ask you, you're in the catering business. I know that has segments just like every other business. What segments do you focus on or concentrate in your business?
Most particularly is the wedding business. Man, I'll tell you what, it's a good time. We have a lot of fun doing it. We love our clients. I mean, they're sometimes highly emotional, but you know what? We wouldn't have it any other way. And then corporate, of course, catering corporate events, and obviously the school systems, because school systems is how we built our company, catering those events that they have, like banquets and such.
Well, that's interesting. And the wedding business to me is something. I had 2 daughters, my wife and I did. I don't want to do a wedding again.
Fair enough.
It's very emotional, like you say. So you're brave to do that, but obviously it's a niche. I read, though, that the wedding business, in general, people are not having the weddings anymore. Do you find that in your business?
Not at all. If anything, the complete opposite. The wedding business here is growing so quickly. They almost can't build venues fast enough. But I would think it would be that way maybe more in the urbanized areas in Houston, Dallas, things like that, like the actual downtown areas. But here, nah. We have people that come from south of us up to Montgomery County to get married, so not even close.
So it's those destination weddings, or at those venue, I guess, weddings that are really a plus for you.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Well, you were here a couple of years ago. At that time, you had been in the business for a while. Family business, if I haven't said that already, generational. Your mom and dad started the business, what I understand. And so you were learning the ropes and so on and so forth. And in 2 years, what's changed?
A lot has changed. We last year did 220 weddings or so and 1,000 plus other events. My wife is now the vice president. I think 2 years ago, she had either just joined up with the company or hadn't quite. But she's now the vice president of All-Star Catering and runs the day-to-day scheduling, client contacts, finalizing. And now my wife makes my schedule more than just at home. So my dad's, he's not completely out of the business by any means. But as far as the day-to-day stuff, he's usually out and about working on bigger and better things. Like finding us a new location, things like that. And Mom is still there. We have several new young managers that a few of which actually have been with us since the last time I was on here, that have really just stepped up into a leadership role. So
you're growing. You mentioned a new location. You were sharing a little bit of thoughts about what that new location will do for you, not the physical location, but the idea of having a new location. Do you mind sharing some of the things that it will do to help your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right now we have about the capacity to do about 300 chicken breasts an hour. And that plays a role in how many events we can take. And we want to build to have the capacity to do 1,500, so 5 times. And also the location that we're at now, there's 300 cars a day roughly that pass, where the new location we're more than likely going to move to, there's closer to about 45,000 cars a day between the 2 intersections. So it just the exposure alone, and plus being in the area of the Conroe Business Park, with us being able to do corporate catering, I mean, it just, I can't elaborate enough on just how incredible and how important that is and what a good move that is. Plus having a state-of-the-art facility, that always helps too, just with efficiency.
Well, it sounds like you're really going to increase your capacity, so there must be some plans to really grow the business.
There really is. I would really like to, by 2020, I really want to get somewhere between 300 to 400 weddings, be doing that much per year, which almost doubles what we do now. And then just, not have months like August that are a little bit slower, where we depend more on weekday work as opposed to weekend work, because the weekend work, there's a lot less events, but it's a lot better revenue stream. So,
well, let me ask you this. You mentioned some dynamics have changed. Your father and your mother still involved in the business. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're coming in and making that transition, is what it sounds like I did in a family business many, many years ago. But you got your wife involved. I mean, you got wife, father, mother. How do all those dynamics play out for y'all?
Well, my dad and I are both the strong-willed. Most definitely. We tend to be a little more hard-headed than the lovely Spence ladies. But me and my wife have found a routine that works for us. We don't always agree when it comes to things in business. And depending on exactly what it is we're discussing or debating, depends on what direction we go. I'm not going to step on her toes in an area where she is the one that is to make the decisions, and she doesn't step on mine. When we get home every day, if there's something that's bothering us, not necessarily with each other, but just in the business, we talk about it while one of us cooks dinner. And then once we sit down to eat, it's done with. And we move on and we enjoy our evening. So, and then sometimes walking away. Sometimes you just have to separate, go to your corners, come back a little bit later. Because, we love what we do. And as good as that is, it doesn't come without heated passion. There's just no way around it. And when we feel very passionate about something, it can get heated. No doubt about it. So.
Well, I did hear in that answer, though, you do defer to one another depending on whose responsibilities, which I think that has to be a real positive, that you're willing to defer ultimately, so you don't just clash to clash.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're not in the business of agreeing with each other. Nothing good ever comes from yes men or women. So disagreement is a positive thing.
Well, that's interesting. Many times I see owners of businesses, particularly, usually it's just generational, but you brought in another dynamic and you brought your spouse in. Of course, brothers and sisters oftentimes are in business. I've seen all those work successfully, but I've also seen them become very unsuccessful. And typically it's because they don't defer or respect one another like they need to. The passion's an interesting thing. You're in a passionate business. You're in the food business.
I am.
And I think you do have a lot of passion about the quality of your food, the type of food you prepare. And I think that's important. But how do you market your business? I mean, how are you going to grow double, basically, or more than that, the number of weddings you do?
Well, one, first answer is something that I tell the kids that work for us. There is no better marketing strategy than caring. It's the best marketing strategy. Care about your product, care about your service, care about your food. And that in itself is an incredible marketing strategy because people notice. And then on top of that, we do stuff in the chamber and in the community. We give, heavily discounted services to school systems, which, we like to do that because we do like to support the local schools, but also, those kids come around in 6-7 years and they got to get married and they need a caterer. Whose food, did they eat for 4 straight years?
Right.
And then we do obviously social media, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, or the wedding trifecta, Pence to book. And then, again, doing stuff with the chamber and then several other aspects of the community. Like I just went through LMC, that was a way to further market the brand and meet new contacts, things like that. So,
well, it sounds like you've got a real handle on your marketing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're already at the end, believe it or not, of our first segment. We're going to take a short break here. I hope you'll stay with us. When we come back to Cody, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the marketing and how they're set to go and grow their business beyond the wildest imagination. So please stay with us.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, and welcome you back to the next segment of the weekly business hour. We've been talking with Cody Spence, an owner of All-Star Catering, about the catering business growth here in our community, Montgomery County, Conroe area. When we left, Cody, we were talking about marketing and social media. You mentioned in your business, and when we were off, you mentioned offline. You mentioned that so many people, especially small business, they shy away from it. It's too much trouble. But you guys have gone gangbusters, and it kind of give us an idea of what it's done for your business to be involved in social media.
Well, first off, the social media is so vital to the wedding industry. I think it's something like 70-something%. I went to this thing down in Houston where I got all these statistics, but 70-something% of brides in this Houston area market, which includes Montgomery County, think that if a wedding vendor is not up to date on their social media, that they are out of touch and too old school. They're not up with trends and things like that. And that statistic kind of punched me right in the chest because I was just kind of took in aback, and what it's done for us is just completely grow the business. I mean, the more you post good content, and that's the key word is good. You need good content and engaging content. The more that people are going to like it, which the more it's going to show up in their feed. So the more traction you're going to get across the board, and just staying consistent with that, especially in Facebook, has been just incredible because we have people that reach out to us via Facebook at least 2 to 3 times a day. on top of which we monitor all the bride-to-bride pages and things like that, where brides communicate with each other and ask for opinions and things like that. We monitor that, and we'll go in on our own social media and, put our name on there, like, hey, reach out to us. And we've gotten a lot of business from that. And then when it comes to Instagram, things like that, just with the short attention span today, those styles of platforms like that and Twitter and Snapchat are very important, just because it grabs people and gets them the message of what you do and how you do it in a very short time span. And we probably get a good, at least quarter of our business from social media.
That's how they make their initial contact with you, through social media.
Yes.
You make a great point. I was sitting here listening to you, and I was thinking, the fact is, and that statistic's been out there for a long time, and I keep hearing it being repeated, how many people, when they go to buy something or get a service done, they go to the internet to look for it. Now, where they go on the internet varies. But the fact is, all of us, me included, when I'm going to buy something, I go research what's out there, what's available, who may have it. So it's just a natural, pretty much to me, whether you sell products or provide services, you need to be there. So people, if nothing else, kind of trip over you and see you, and they say, oh, you're local, you can solve my problem. I think you're just completely taking yourself out of the game if you don't do it. What do you think?
I mean, I completely agree. And actually studying social media and reading books on it and reading articles and blogs and things like that to keep up with trends and also upgrades to the social media systems, like paid advertising, things like that, knowing during what hours you need to post and what hours that you're just completely wasting your money. And that's what that's where a lot of people go wrong, because they'll post, be like, I don't get anything from it. Like, when are you posting? Well, I post a lot on Sunday mornings and Saturdays when I have free time. I'm like, where are you posting? Instagram. That's your problem. You post something on Instagram for advertising on a Saturday, you might as well just flush your money down the toilet, because there's so much less traffic on Instagram on Saturday that it's ridiculous. Now you go breakfast or lunchtime or evening time, that's when you're going to get the heaviest amount of traffic. And I've played around with it, and it is spot on. So
yeah, so you got to really spend some time and effort. And of course, there's some good people out there, if you're listening, that you can engage, who can help you with this, who can post your content. You still need to be involved in writing and laying it out.
And then if you really, really, really just don't want anything to do with it, you still need to do it. But there are companies that will do it for you. And I mean, is it expensive? It's not cheap. That's for sure. Everybody's definition of expensive is different, but you can't afford not to.
No, I agree with you. I work with a lot of clients that I was there when we initiated some of this stuff and getting it to work for their business, as far as internally making it work and then putting it out there consistently. Well, let's move on a little bit. One of the key things to being successful in business, particularly in the marketing area, is to stand out in the crowd. How do you get All-Star Catering? How does it stand out in the crowd? If I'm looking at 5 caterers, what draws me to All-Star?
I would say, first off, we have very competitive pricing. That is always a big thing. And the second thing would probably be the vast, that's the wrong word, the variety that we have in our menu and how large scale our menu is. Doing that for a restaurant doesn't work as well, but for a catering company, it works for us very well. And then the third thing, and probably the most important thing, would be reviews. Wedding Wire and The Knot, which are the two biggest online publications for the wedding business. I think something like in this market, like 98% of brides consult with one of those two websites in this market. And I think Wedding Wire, we have over 200 reviews, and The Knot, we have upper hundreds, like 170 or something like that, which I would rarely see anybody with more reviews on either of those, especially Wedding Wire. And if they do, they're usually not in this market.
That's interesting. And so absolutely, part of your mission or part of the work you put in your plan was to make sure you got those reviews posted.
Absolutely. It's our lifeline, because you can advertise all day long, but you have that many people on giving a testimony on one of the most important days of their life and testifying that your service was incredible on that day. And it is worth the money because it's not cheap. There's nothing more powerful than that.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. And testimonials, sometimes I've worked with clients like pulling teeth to get them to do the work. It's not to get them to be able to post them out there. And I think they're very important. I know I react to them when I'm buying, and I don't know who giving the testimonial, but I look for a positive encounter by the person who did business with whoever's on the site.
Yeah, absolutely. And big shout out to my wife, because man, that lady stays on top of it, and she has a very good system for it. And she does incredible. Since she's taken over as vice president, our reviews have skyrocketed, like in the amount that we're getting. So shout out to her, man. She's awesome.
Well, that's a good thing to say. I hope she hears that and gives you a little plus on that.
brownie points.
Well, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. One of the things that you and I personally have talked about in the past is employees. And obviously you're in a business that relies on their employees a whole lot. You've got to have employees to make your business work. How do you attract and keep the best employees?
First thing, treat them right, treat them with respect. Don't talk down to them. Second thing, pay them fair. Personal belief is if somebody has proven themselves to be a good employee who's going to work hard, pay them more than what they get paid to do, and they'll do more than they get paid to do.
Well, that's a good expression for it. I know they're your lifeblood because they're out there presenting in some cases, or they're back in the kitchen preparing. I mean, that connection is so strong in your business.
Man, and I can't say enough how good they are and how much passion they have. Because if somebody doesn't like something that they produce, those guys in the kitchen, man, they take it personal. They really do. It really gets to them. So they work day in, day out, just tirelessly. They just work to make the best quality of product and to make the best quality looking product. The food decor that these guys put out is just ridiculous, man. They're awesome. So.
Well, it sounds like you got that nailed. Well, we've got about 30 seconds left, and I'd like you, just if you could, what's the future look like for All-Star Catering? You've mentioned you want to double the business. What's your plan 3 to 5 years down the road?
3 to 5 years down the road, we're going to have a state-of-the-art, brand new facility in Conroe, and really just beat the streets up until that time, trying to make sure that business will flow in, and just continue to give outstanding service. And in 3 to 5 years, it will probably be just me and my wife, at least for the day in and day out. And as long as we stick to that plan and just keep giving outstanding service with outstanding food and stay competitive, I don't see why we can't reach that 300 to 400 wedding goal.
Well, that's fantastic. If people want to reach out to you and talk to you about something they heard today, or talk to you about doing some catering, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Best way to contact us is going to be our phone number, 936-228-0440. That's our office line, and there is always somebody that at least has a line forwarded to them, so you can always leave a voicemail. And if it's a catering thing, we will reach back out to you almost immediately. If you're a telemarketer, we won't call you back. And you can also reach out to us on our website, www.cateringbyallstar.com, or email us at info@cateringbyallstar. You can check me out, Catering Cody, on social media, and All-Star Catering is Catering by All-Star on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on and so forth.
Well, you're out there. Cody, again, thanks so much for coming in and giving us an update on your business. Y'all are doing well, and I look forward to having another one 2 or 3 years from now.
Me too, brother.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Attention movie lovers, the Ticket Stub is a new radio show servicing Montgomery County that is meant for you. The Ticket Stub is available live every Thursday at noon on FM 104.5 and 106.1, as well as anytime on irlonestar.com. Connor and Dick will let you know what's coming out in the theater, what is worth streaming, and what's going on in the world of film. The Ticket Stub, your home for movie talk.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. Well, we're back to start our third segment of the show, and this is the one where we typically invite an expert to join us, an expert in their field, and hopefully offer you some ideas and some advice that you can use to improve your business even today. And I'm happy to say that our expert of the day, Lisa McElroy, the owner of Alegre HR, has been with us before. And I think she gives good advice, so pay close attention. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, today we're going to talk about what I gather is how to be successful with new hires. And I think that's a big, big area that many businesses fall down on.
If it goes bad, it goes really bad.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I worked early in my career in the job I had before I went out on my own, and that part of my job was improving the hiring process, but also the onboarding process so that we kept them. The good ones we thought is we put all that effort into hire them. You offered some statistics and some information you provided me. Boy, these are scary statistics.
Shocking.
You want to share them with us?
Yeah, Texas 8th Congressional District, which is all the way from Spring to Centerville and then Lake Livingston, almost over to Bryan, so right around the Woodlands. We have 369,000 people in our workforce, and the U.S. Census Bureau says we're growing at about 1.7% job growth every year, which means our businesses, we add almost 6,300 jobs every single year. And out of that, if we take some statistics from Forbes, from LinkedIn, from Career Builder, we get a range that goes anywhere from about 45% to 80%. And we waste $155 million a year based on those particular estimates. Out of our pocketbooks.
And that's wasted because we hire the wrong people, or we don't onboard them right, or both? Or
it's wasted because once they come on board, something doesn't work, and they end up leaving the job anywhere from 1 to 2 years. So actually, if we go for a 2-year look, that could actually double. That $155 million could become $300 million.
And I think a lot of business people don't quite catch that, even if they have some turnover in their business. When I looked at these statistics, Forbes in general, I guess throughout the United States, 61% of new hires are fired within 2 years.
Yeah, fired.
Why do we hire them? 61%.
Yeah, it's scary. Business owners will say, well, we didn't really have a process. Maybe it's a small company, they're growing. We were in a hurry to get this person on board. Yeah, it costs a lot of overtime to have somebody fill in a vacancy. We skipped a step, which is typically the references part. But I think it boils down to small companies just don't appreciate yet the need for a disciplined business-like process that helps them reduce their risk.
That's interesting. Share with us in general what your idea about what that process should look like.
It's a pretty short process. It kind of goes back to my performance management talk we had. Everybody does this. Everybody has to hire people. So we might as well do it professionally and expect a particular outcome. Everybody should have a hiring strategy, not just hire the person that seems like they'd be the one that would do the job the best. A hiring strategy involves 2 main documents. Number 1, a reality-based job description, which is subjective. It's the business owner's opinion of what that person really needs to have, that je ne sais quoi, to be successful in the job. And from there, you create the job description, which is objective, and that goes out to the public. That helps, people determine whether their background might meet just the hard, cold facts. Beyond that, the process of really knowing how to interview a candidate, to do a behavioral interview, and really ask hard questions. Be willing to be uncomfortable for a while. And then at the beginning, I really think you already have to have your exit strategy, at least know what those points are. What's going to indicate that you have made a bad hire? How fast are you going to be able to tell it? How fast might you be able to get them back on track and save the situation?
One of the things I advise businesses is something I did early. If you only have 10, 20 employees or fewer, some number where you're just not in the hiring mode every day or every week, should be out looking for new hires, but you're not interviewing, that put a process together, document it, put it in a folder, and then when it comes time to hire someone new, pull it out, review it, take some time to think through it, take a deep breath, and jump back in. But I find, because typically the person doing the hiring is the owner. They may have someone at that size business sort of screen people, but you need to have that process where you can pull it out and refresh your memory.
Yeah, the small businesses in particular are at risk of having an ordained hire, somebody who's been recommended to them by someone to whom they're close, someone they do business with. But even if you have an ordained candidate given to you, we shouldn't abandon a disciplined process that helps us know for certain that's indeed the right person for us long term.
The other thing I think, and you and I have not really talked it much about, but it's the culture fit. The person, do they fit in our business? How do you cover that in an interview process?
Well, what some companies like to do can definitely be improved upon. Common practice is to have the same question asked by multiple different functions within the organization. And my recommendation would be to improve that. Go ahead and design the questions in advance. And again, turn the thumb screws, for lack of a better word. Make sure that each function that's going to be interviewing those candidates really does get a good look at what they need from that candidate. Because, if 4 vice presidents or 4 department heads are doing the interviewing, they all need something different from that individual. So using the same interview questions, not as helpful as other ways might be. The other thing is to, again, just not be shy about asking difficult questions. Sure, you want to put people at ease. You want them to feel like they can open up. You definitely want them to open up, but you got to listen to what they say after they open up.
One of the things I did, whether had my first supervisor or management level, whatever, someone that I was involved in the hiring for someone else in the beginning, when we put together, like you say, the reality check, I think you talked about what we're looking for, and then the job description, I would sit down with that person who they would work for directly under the new hire and go through that and make sure it met their requirements and they were comfortable with what we were doing in initiating a process. Obviously, they were the final person who did an interview, but I got them involved in the front end of the process.
Mm-hmm. And once that front end has been designed, don't skip those steps at the back end of it. So you've got 2 good candidates, go ahead and do those references, check those references. The key to references is nobody in their right mind is ever going to give you a person's name that won't give them a good reference. If they do, well, wow, we don't even know what to say about that. But ask them for a previous direct supervisor, someone that really knows their work, somebody who is a peer for a period of time, and if possible, if that's applicable, then somebody that reported to them. It was a direct report. And the other temptation is to have people, the references, just give us this person's performance on a scale of 1 to 5. My recommendation would be to throw that out as well, simply because it doesn't give the business owner enough objective material that they themselves can analyze. You're really trusting that those references are truly being objective, and they just don't want to help this person, get into their next step in their career. You've got to scrub the data.
Well, and I think reference checking is the number one thing I find people, management, owners reluctant, because they feel like they never get anything, because everybody's so careful about not breaking the law of what they might say, given an honest opinion. Any tips?
That is one of the most difficult, especially when the person that you want to have referenced comes from a larger company where they have been told that thou shalt not give references. Some of that has to do with National Labor Relations Board, come back saying all you can do is confirm that they worked here was their salary, and here were their years of employment and their title. So there are other things that you can do if you can't get any real quality data. Most of the time you can. Most of the time somebody's willing to step outside the rules. But if you can't, there are other ways. Always do a background check. Always do a background check that lines up with policies that exist for the company. And people find it, or they'll say that it's rather expensive to do a behavioral profile. But when we look back at those numbers that we waste simply on payroll for bad hires, for folks that don't make it past a year or 2 years, the cost of a behavioral profile is nothing. It's a little bit, but it's really nothing. And there are a plethora of those to choose from. Some of them are very straightforward. They'll put an individual's behavior into buckets that are sort of easy to figure out. The more sophisticated ones will actually give specific feedback on the individual and make some recommendations for further interview questions for that person to help the business owner probe into particular areas.
Well, as usual, our discussion could go on and on and on. And I think so much of what you talk about is so important, particularly to the businesses that don't hire people often, because I find they forget what they did the last time. And if they've had little turnover, they even, the whole thing. And it's something you just got to refresh your memory to. Lisa, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about HR and whatnot, what's the best way for them to do it?
Sure. My number is 281-620-0713, and we'll absolutely help you put together a process. It's simple, it's painless, and it's a huge risk reducer.
Well, I hope you'll consider coming back, because you've got so much more material that I'd like to share with our business audience. And again, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our final break for the day. When we come back, I'm going to give you my Silver Fox tip of the week. So please stay with us.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Hey guys, I'm Joey Savage.
Corey DLG.
We are Nerd Thug Radio. Catch us every Monday from 1 to 3 and check out our website, nerdthugradio.com.
We like to talk about quilting, horseback riding, and baking quiche.
Actually, we don't, but we do like talking nerdy to you.
That's right. Every Monday from 1 to 3 p.m., hashtag talking nerdy to you.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and your host for the Weekly Business Hour. Thank you for listening to the program today. And again, I want to remind you, we have a Facebook page, the Weekly Business Hour. I encourage you to like us on Facebook and set up an alert so that you'll automatically be notified when our podcast is posted each week. Well, the final part of the show, I like to give a little bit of a tip of the week. I call it the Silver Fox tip of the week. And this week I want to talk about telling your story, an update. Well, telling your story is something we have talked about on this show from time to time. I think we've had some wonderful storytellers that talk about their businesses, how they got where they are, the different paths that we take to build our business, because I find each story is unique. Each business has its own story, just like each person has a unique fingerprint. I think each business develops its own story. You know, in networking events, if you do networking, if you go out and even if you just meet people, whether it be a chamber of commerce meeting, anywhere, church, and someone says, well, what do you do? Well, you begin to shape, and if you do professional networking, they call it the 30, 60-second elevator speech. The idea being that you will be able, within the time the elevator goes up or down to the floor you're looking for, be able to tell someone what you do, and they will understand what you're doing and what your business is. That's what the story's all about. It may be not 30 or 60 seconds. Maybe it takes a minute or two, but your business story is unique to your business, as I said earlier. And if you don't have one, I encourage you, create one. We all are natural storytellers, in my opinion. You may be shy, a little bit quiet. Sometimes we just don't want to tell our story, but you've got a great story inside. And I believe all of us, particularly small business people, entrepreneurs, are passionate about their business, and you can develop your own story. And I encourage you to do so if you haven't done so. If you've already built a story, then I encourage you to refresh that story from time to time. That's the idea of the update. Because if I'm telling the same story that I've told for 20 years of the life of my business, then it gets kind of boring. And we all know, if nothing else, our business has changed. We have improved our business. We have different products. We have different services. We do things differently. And we need to adjust our story to include those. Because the point of a story, in my opinion, is to be memorable, so that when you tell that story, it becomes a powerful reminder of who you are. It's not just like exchanging a business card. You can have the best business card in the world with all the tricks, the thickness of the paper, the color of the print. All of these things can be done, and you can spend $1 per card. And I'm not knocking that. But the idea is when you tell a story, yes, I'm in the baking. I have a bakery, but I'm telling a story about our bakery and the fact that my grandfather started it. My grandmother came, all the things that have happened, even a great employee, or new products that we've presented over the years and how they evolved. I begin to understand what you're doing, and it sticks. Why is it so powerful? Well, let me offer you several things. One is it's word of mouth marketing. When you're telling your story, that is the least expensive and, in my opinion, the best kind of marketing you can do, because someone is looking to you face to face. They're identifying you with your bakery and where it came from and what it's all about. Not that you're just a bakery that bakes bread and other good things to eat, but why your bakery is unique. This is how you build your story. Make it memorable. Get the audience to invest. That's the second thing. Make sure the story that you put together is interesting, and the audience will be listening to you, because, again, we all like to hear a good story, and that's very important. Make sure your story has legs. In other words, that people remember it, but also that it's easy for them to share. When I hear a good business story, I like to share it with other people, and that's what it's all about, is getting people to refer or to tell other people about your business. And the fourth thing is, make sure your story inspires action. Inspires action and will attract and motivate people versus just giving out facts and figures. You know, you sit and you listen to somebody speak, whether it be a minister in church or a speech that you've gone to listen to that is educational or could be about business, whatever. The fact that when somebody stands up there and does a PowerPoint or has charts, talks about facts and figures, and that's all they really talk about, how long do you retain that information? Versus someone that puts stories into their presentation. You remember the stories. That's what we remember. So you need to have a story that will attract and motivate people to do business. The need to refresh and stay current is so important, because you're given the opportunity to add, again, those new products and services that you have. And that's just like setting up advertising for yourself. The fact that I adjust my story and talk about the new product that we've come out and what an improvement is. Now, you don't give a 30-second radio commercial, but you just weave it into your evolution, your business. Well, our business, We hired this new individual. They came in, they've been the best asset in the world, and they came up with an idea that we do this, or that we build this, or that we offer this. It becomes part of the story. But people also are made aware that you have new products or new services. The second thing is that you need to share any new positions that you are or what's going on. A story is personal if you're the owner to you and the business. And don't be afraid to add some personal information to your story. It's important to personalize your story. So add that information and then be prepared to share your story with your customers, your prospective customers, your employees, and your vendors. Make sure everyone understands the story of your business. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us today. I ask you to put a note on your calendar to join us again next Monday right here on irlonestar.com or FM 104.5 or 106.1 at 11 o'clock, where we'll have more interesting guests, business owners, and experts to help you with ideas that you can use today in your business. And remember, you too can sponsor the Weekly Business Hour by contacting me at rick@irlonestar.com for details. Look for the podcast of today's show on the Weekly Business Hour page on irlonestar.com or on our Facebook page or other social media outlets. Until next week, stay engaged with what is important to you and your business. Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this podcast of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. If you enjoyed this recording, make sure to check out our past shows online at irlonestar.com or their respective video or podcast formats on YouTube, Google Play, or iTunes. If you have any questions regarding the show, either it being about sponsorships or questions for the host, contact the station manager at dick@irlonestar.com or call the station at 936-647-3776. This show is recorded in downtown Conroe, Texas at the Lone Star Community Radio Studios, and Lone Star Community Radio reserves all rights to this recording and images.